start with it. We are now fully productive since beginning of 2022. So it's not a research and development project anymore, but it's a company, it's a German limited. So we are supposed to make business. Let's be very clear with that. And that is also the reason why we appreciate the initiative Gaia-X under the hood of Gaia-X very much, because that is what data spaces are all about. So finally, it's about making business. And what I would like to talk about is the formula for innovative mobility solution as we see it, if you don't mind. So at the first place, we are mobility data space. So it's all about mobility services, and particularly in order to run and to drive mobility services, it's all about mobility data, or data which is relevant for mobility. So what does that mean? If we talk about data relevant for mobility, of course, we're talking about traffic information, talking about disruptions, roadworks, stuff like that, traffic flow information, parking, of course, fuel, but not fuel only, but also charging points of interest. I will come to that later. Traffic signs, also those dynamic traffic signs, weather information. So that is the reason why I say data relevant for mobility. The first place, weather might not be mobility data, of course, is very relevant for mobility. And then public transport information, car and bike sharing information, e-scooter, stuff like that, or even infrastructure. Yeah? So if you think about highways, sometimes bridges are rebuilt. No, we see that. All the bridges from the 60s are kind of broken and they have to be renewed. And for instance, if there is a bridge renewed in the middle or in the north of Germany, traffic in the south of Germany is impacted, and that is what we are looking for, our participants are looking for. So first part of the formula for innovative mobility solutions, data, obviously. The second one is architecture and infrastructure, but not necessarily in a narrow sense of way. So at the first place, you have seen that many, many times. We're talking about a federated data infrastructure. Data is exchanged peer-to-peer. Data owners are completely sovereign of their data, so they control who, where, what, and under which circumstances is done with their data. And I think that is really, really a European success. I think Europe has started with that, and now we see more regions of the world, more continents are following that idea, and I'm pretty much convinced that also sometimes we will be able to convince North America to follow that idea. And when I talk about infrastructure and architecture, it's not about the technical aspect only. It's also about the data architecture. And when I say data architecture, I'm talking about security, safety, data quality, service level agreements, and data benchmarking. And that is what data spaces are all about, right? So it's data economy, and the driving questions of our participants is, what is my data worth for? And that is a very important question, and it's a very complicated question to answer, because for sure there is not one price for one piece of data, but it depends on the actual business scenario. So this is very complicated, and we have to work on frameworks to benchmark data, and that is also what is part of the idea of Gaia-X and Gaia-X. I would like to take this opportunity to announce the migration to the EDC. This is a little bit technical thing, but as part of the IDSA architecture, you know that the participants, the customers, are using a connector, and we migrate from the data space connector to the Eclipse data connector by end of this month. So we will have the migration completed, and that's a landmark for us, because then we are interoperable with other initiatives, particularly with Gaia-X, what we have seen before. So, second part of the formula, architecture and infrastructure. And the last but not least, and maybe the most important part of the formula, is the trustworthy community. At the first place, being a fully functional and operational data space for more than a year. In the meantime, we have 70 customers. Let me add, we are completely B2B only. So I think that's a great achievement. And we increase customers by 2 to 3 customers per week. So we are growing. And if you look at the logos, the names, it's really cross-domain. It's not mobility only. Of course, we have the OEMs, but we also have map providers, energy providers. We have service providers, part of our community, of our ecosystem, and that is something that we think is very important in order to get it going. So this is kind of interior architecture, if you like. So looking into the mobility data space inside. If we turn it around and look inside out, of course, it's very clear. We are not the only data space on Earth, and for us it's a vital treasury that we are connected and interoperable with other initiatives. I've also already mentioned Gaia-X, and there are more. For instance, our friends of the DIO here from Austria, we are very well connected, and we running working groups together with them, trying to implement further business cases. And what in addition plays a very important role are the national access points, where based on legal circumstances, mobility providers have to provide data, and we are helping companies to provide data, but we also consume data from the national access points. And then finally, as I've already mentioned, we in turn are customers of IDSA and Gaia-X. So of course, to raise a little bit the pressure on the Gaia-X fellows is we badly need support in terms of more standards, stronger standards, what I've mentioned before, not in terms of technical services and architecture only, but also in terms of data architecture, data benchmarking. So last but not least, that is our formula: mobility data, architecture, infrastructure, the community, and the result, innovative solutions. And I would like to give you a quick intro into those solutions. On the right-hand side, smart city and rural area mobility, where we, together with a trusted partner who is working in the area of artificial intelligence, runs analysis, traffic impact of disruptions on roads, what impact that has. Then I think our golden application charging station point of interest. That's so charging stations and the data quality about charging stations prevents so far the breakthrough of e-mobility. So many people are concerned that they, in quotes, can't refuel their e-cars. So that is something we work on. And then, of course, the carbon footprint of mobility. And all of that is possible only if we're interoperable. Interoperable horizontally and vertically. So we have to be interoperable with other mobility data spaces or other data spaces dealing with mobility across Europe. We'll also have to be interoperable with data spaces in other domains like energy, smart city, banking and stuff like that in order to provide the full-blown service to our customers and our participants. And that is why Gaia-X and also IDSA are so important, because they provide the framework for all those data spaces and initiatives to be interoperable. All right, thank you so much. And let me also ask you to join us downstairs on the first floor. We have a booth over there, so if you have further questions and ideas, just approach us and let's talk.